The movie begins during Christmas in Estonia, where an elderly man goes to buy a bicycle for his granddaughter. The problem is that the seller only has red bicycles, while she wants a blue one. He prefers to wait for bicycles of the color she desires, so the seller makes a phone call. Next, we see a group of criminals stealing a bicycle chained to a post. Guess what? It's blue. Changing the scene, we are introduced to Marcus Hansen, a Danish soldier deployed in Afghanistan. From there, he calls his wife, Emma, to inform her that he has been required for a longer period, meaning he won't be home for Christmas. The day is already quite bad for Emma and her teenage daughter Matilda, as her car won't start. Generally, Matilda goes to school by bicycle, but hers was recently stolen. The news that her father will not return for Christmas sounds familiar to her. Although it saddens her, it doesn't surprise her. It's not the first time that Marcus has disappointed them. In an attempt to cheer her up, Emma invites her to spend the day and travel to the city by train. Meanwhile, we meet Otto, a mathematician who, along with his assistant Leonard, presents his new invention at a meeting with investors. It is an algorithm capable of predicting certain events before they occur, based on what we call coincidences. In reality, it is nothing more than a coincidence. Unfortunately, the investors are skeptical and end up completely dismissing his idea. Disappointed, Otto takes a train home. During the journey, his curiosity drives him to observe every one of the passengers. At that moment, he gives up his seat to a kind woman who has just arrived with her daughter. It turns out they are Emma and Matilda. You didn't see that coming. Otto awakens in a sea of blood and laments, realizing that the place where he had been sitting was the one that suffered the worst part of the collision in Afghanistan. Marcus receives the worst news. His wife has passed away. Otto, in turn, learns from the news that on the train was traveling an ex-convict known as the Eagle, who was going to testify against his former motorcycle gang, the Justice Riders. Remember, nothing is a coincidence. Back in Estonia, Marcus finally reunites with his daughter. Unfortunately, it is under these circumstances that, despite warnings, the man insists on seeing his wife, or what remains of her. Better said, changing the scene. Otto appears at the police station with the theory that the train accident was anything but an accident. Besides the presence of the Eagle, the mathematician recalls having seen a suspicious man get off the train shortly before the tragedy. He refers to a man who threw away a rather expensive sandwich. Although it sounds silly, it isn't. After the loss of her mother, Matilda now has to deal with her strict father, who finds any excuse to prevent her from leaving the house, such as going to school. Nevertheless, Marcus manages to irritate her by pointing out that she hasn't followed the exercise routine he left her in tears. The young woman sets off on foot to school. After Emma's funeral, Matilda cannot sleep. She wonders why her mother had to die. Seeking solace in her father, he makes it clear that what happened to her mother was an accident, so there's no point in dwelling on it. That same night, Marcus receives the unexpected visit of Otto, who, accompanied by Leonard, reveals that he was a witness to Emma's death. Only Marcus deserves to know that what occurred was not an accident in the barn of the property. The men speak in private, while Otto shows all the evidence supporting his theory. The main suspect is the man who got off at the station before the accident, having thrown away a sandwich he didn't even touch. It sounds absurd, but it isn't. While Otto and Leonard work on identifying the subject, Marcus and his daughter meet with therapists who offer their help. Although Matilda likes the idea, her father refuses to let them interfere in her life. Later that night, Matilda meets her boyfriend, Sirius, but is interrupted by her father, who scolds her for being late. Sirius defends his girlfriend, stating that she shouldn't be spoken to in that tone. When Marcus realizes his mistake, his daughter has already locked herself in her room. The next day, Otto and Leonard consult with an old colleague, Eamon Haller, a hacker who makes up for his lack of social life with his computer skills. In record time, he identifies the train suspect as an Egyptian residing in Cairo. Although there is clearly an error, the facial scanner marks a 99.1% match with the subject in the photo. Therefore, his colleagues recommend lowering the threshold to 95%, and they manage to identify Paul Ensign, an electrical engineer and the brother of the leader of the Justice Riders. Back with Marcus, he prepares a sumptuous breakfast for his daughter as an apology, though he really owes Sirius an apology. Matilda says she will invite her boyfriend, but she leaves without tasting her father's food. Later, the soldier receives a visit from Otto and his colleagues, who reveal the name of the presumed suspect. Marcus wastes no time and proposes to visit Paul just to ask him a few simple questions. Of course, in his defense, the suspect was armed. After this incident, Leonard offers to clean up the crime scene and, in the process, finds a young man tied up in a suggestive manner. He had him as a toy. At the end of his work, Leonard returns to the group without mentioning anything about the boy. When Marcus returns home, he discovers that his daughter did invite her boyfriend. After apologizing to him, the soldier has to listen to both of them analyze him psychologically, concluding that violence is part of his nature. Once again, Matilda insists that she needs professional help, and Marcus once again refuses the idea. Shortly thereafter, in the news, the man sees that Kurt Ensign, the leader of the Justice Riders, has been acquitted of charges due to lack of evidence. It was assumed that the Eagle's testimony would have condemned him. Outraged, Marcus convenes Otto's group and asks them to search for information about that gang. It is time for revenge, as he impulsively called them out. He cannot help but cross paths with his daughter, and she recognizes Otto as the man from the train. Forced to improvise, Leonard pretends to be a therapist alongside Emmenthaler, assuring that they are working with Marcus and Otto to help deal with his trauma. An excited Matilda hugs her father for taking that decision. Changing the scene, Kurt takes the aforementioned young Ukrainian, Bashka, who was threatened with execution. Bashka confesses that the only thing he remembers about Paul's killers is that one of them was named Anal Thaler, or something like that, a reference to Emmenthaler. Ignoring this, Emmenthaler sets up his belongings in Marcus's barn, turning it into the team's base of operations. Inevitably, Matilda begins to suspect what they are doing in the barn, although her boyfriend reminds her to focus on what is important. Later, Marcus, Otto, and Leonard head to Emmenthaler's residence to retrieve the rest of their belongings hidden in a car. Some of the riders ask Bashka if those are the men who killed Paul, and the answer is yes. While his companions cover him, Marcus gets a weapon and returns the favor to the shooters. When encountering Bashka, Leonard tells him that he is innocent and might even be useful to them. When they return with Emmenthaler, he states that he won't lift a finger until Marcus teaches him how to defend himself. Such is his insistence that the soldier eventually agrees, promising to give shooting lessons to everyone. As for Bashka, the group introduces him to Matilda as their new assistant. He is becoming more and more peculiar. Fortunately, the young man quickly gains Matilda's trust, momentarily dispelling her suspicions. In the first shooting lessons, Otto can barely handle his weapon due to a disability in his arm. Emmenthaler, on the other hand, assembles his weapon so quickly that Marcus suspects he has received training in the past. And then there's Leonard. Meanwhile, Kurt discovers the link between Emmenthaler and Otto, giving the order to find the mathematician at any cost. Otto isn't as hidden as he might think, as he is calmly teaching Matilda chess. At that moment, she asks her boyfriend to take a photo with her new teacher. Meanwhile, Emmenthaler, who is monitoring the movements of the riders, discovers that Kurt will be meeting with some of them at a restaurant. It is the perfect opportunity to attack him. It is now time. Marcus gets to work, calling Otto and shouting at Matilda when she tries to stop him along the way. Otto reprimands Marcus for treating his daughter that way, and the soldier only asks him to be quiet, even though the man continues insisting that unleashing a massacre will not bring his wife back. "Goodbye, Otto," he says, and as they resume the journey, Leonard and Emmenthaler tell the soldier that Otto has reasons to worry about Matilda, since he is also a father, or at least he was until he lost his wife and daughter in a car accident. Once at the restaurant, the group sees Kurt leaving with some girls, something that was not part of their plans. As a distraction, Marcus intercepts a lagging car of the riders. Even though Emmenthaler had been waiting for this moment, he does not feel capable of pulling the trigger. On the way back, Marcus rescues Otto, who was walking on foot. The next day, a member of the riders is interrupted in a business meeting by his daughter. It turns out that she follows Sirius on Instagram, and he has just uploaded a photo of Matilda and Otto, the guy that the gang is currently searching for. At that moment, Matilda is showing Otto her wall covered with notes about the events leading up to her mother's death, starting with the theft of her bicycle. Otto reflects on it, given his fondness for looking for coincidences, though he also explains that there is no point in overthinking it. Things simply happen. At the same time, Bashka tells Leonard how he met Paul, mentioning that they arrived in Denmark 3 days before their encounter with Marcus and company. This means that the suspicious man from the train was not Paul. Leonard reviews the database and realizes that the first result, the Egyptian from Cairo, was correct. Amid so many memories of Denmark, the man appears disappointed by a sandwich that tasted terrible. This means that the entire crusade of Marcus, Otto, and the others against the riders was triggered by a mere coincidence. The soldier bursts into rage, venting his anger on the bathroom objects. Inevitably, his anger gives way to sadness as he laments his wife's death. Meanwhile, Otto talks about his own tragedy and how much he regrets not having made the most of the time with his daughter while she was alive. At least Marcus now has the opportunity to make amends with his. On the other hand, Sirius is about to leave the house when he is intercepted by Kurt and the riders, who extract information from him by force. Upon hearing the approaching motorcycles, Marcus leaps onto his daughter to protect her during the ensuing shootout. Once she hides in her room, the soldier tries to gather his weapons along with his companions. Although most of them end up injured and the riders do not cease firing, Marcus valiantly defends his home, taking out the intruders one by one. However, something unexpected forces him to drop his weapon. Kurt has taken his daughter hostage. There is no other option. He must let himself be executed. The shooting lessons had paid off. On his deathbed, Kurt asks Marcus, "What did they do to you to deserve this?" He responds with a bullet, waiting for the paramedics, and Marcus admits to Matilda that she was always right. She needed help. Days later, we see the group celebrating Christmas at Marcus's home, at which time Emmenthaler surprises him with a new gift, a French horn, with beautiful Christmas music adorning the atmosphere. Marcus watches as his daughter prepares to give him a new bicycle. At the same time, the grandfather from the beginning surprises his granddaughter with a blue bicycle.